Okay, so I'm hoping that I am once again live. Really, this is just not a lot of fun, is it, today? I don't know. So I'm trying again to roughly get my desktop sorted out. And let's see if I'm live a second time. Looks like I am. Let's just check there's some volume on here. And yes, there's some volume. All right. So what I was doing was I had just got all the leads out of the way for you, and I was just talking about the new catalogue. So my apologies, my internet presumably dropped out, everything went blank, and then Facebook told me that it had terminated the broadcast, which is never what you want to see when you've barely got going. So let me just try and hold that cable up there out of the way. Okay, right, so mini catalogue. I can't show you inside, I'm not allowed to yet. I can only show you, I'm just fiddling with the view again. I can only show you the cover. It needs to go that way, not the other way. There we are. However, I have posted catalogues out today. I think that's about as good as I'm going to get, and I don't want to waste too much time fiddling today. Now you can see bits and pieces around me here, so I am going to show you some new things. This catalogue covers autumn, winter, Christmas and New Year, and I'm sure I've said you can order from it from the 4th of September. So I'm going to show you the autumnal and the wintry stuff first, and then I'll show you some Christmassy things. Halloween is not in this catalogue this year. The Halloween items have been moved to the online exclusives section of the website, so you can have a look at those on my online shop, which you'll find at sallybowman.stampinup.net. So that leaves more room for other things. So this is the Regal Winter Suite. This is beautiful. I wasn't going to get this, but then somehow it found its way into my my shopping basket. So I have got all the bits from this Regal Winter Suite. So there is a stamp set. It's more flowers. I love flowers. I have loads of flower stamp sets, and they're all a little bit different, and they've got different styles. This one is one where the style is like an outline of the flowers, and then it's got a kind of a watercolour effect to fill it in. I like the words on this: wishing I were there to give you a hug, sending love your way, thanks, and missing you. So I thought that was really nice. It's also got a brilliant little texture stamp in there. I love those too. And then the dies cut out all the stamped images, plus there is this one which cut out kind of a bank of foliage. I think this will be really good used to cut out patterned paper, because you'll get lots of colour, different coloration on the die cut. And then this piece, which cuts out a solid label in the middle and a frame all in one pass. And so you can cut these out of several different colours and then mix and match your frames with your outlines. And I've got a couple here cut to show you. So here is your label, which you might well do in white or vanilla, and then you can have a frame around it in a different colour. You can pop up the middle section, you could pop up the outside section, and it's got kind of square corners on diagonally opposite corners and rounded corners on the other. So that's something a little bit different. I do love a label die cut. So that's the stamps and dies. Of course you can get those as a bundle, which saves you 10% on buying them separately. The paper is beautiful. It makes me think of kind of velvets and oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me in a minute. But those kind of rich, opulent fabrics. The colours in this paper and in the other bits and pieces I'll show you in a minute are Berry Burst, Blackberry Bliss, Cherry Cobbler, Night of Navy, Pretty Peacock, Shaded Spruce and Wild Wheat. So you've got deep reds and pinks and purples. you've got navy, you've got darker greens, and then you've got just touches of this yellowish wild wheat. So we've got this one, which is florals on the front, and then it's florals on the back, but just in red. These would be beautiful for scrapbooking as well as for card making. Then this one is golds and browns, and then on the back we've got a pattern in this beautiful pretty peacock. This is the same pattern as the first one I showed you, but the colours are slightly different. This is pinker and more purple, whereas the first one is more red. And on the back we've got the same pattern but just in shades of blue. Then this one is still an all over pattern, but fewer kind of individual bits, so you can see each piece of foliage or flower more easily. This is blues and dark purples with this beautiful blackberry bliss pattern on the back. Then this one again is a different but an all over flower and foliage pattern in blackberry bliss, and then we've got pretty peacock on the back. And then this one again, which has mixed wild wheat with the red with just little hints of berry and blue, so that's really autumnal colours. And then wild wheat kind of check pattern on the back. Sorry about that cable, let's just move that back out of the way. So that's the patterned paper, which is really lovely. I'm going to be using this suite in a minute to do some actual crafting, so you'll be able to see it a little bit more there. The gems with this, which are called Regal Foiled Adhesive Backed Dots, I think are beautiful. They've all got gold in them, and they're all small scale gems, which is really nice, because I definitely use more of the small size than I do the larger size. And then there is some really beautiful ribbon as well. So this is called Blackberry Bliss and Gold ribbon. So it's quite a loose weave with a gold edging. It's 1/2 inch wide. It ties really nicely, and because it's a slightly stiffer ribbon, it kind of holds the bow shape up from your surface a little bit, although equally it will go flat, but it ties really nicely as well. So that is Regal Winter. Let me move those out of the way. So for me, that is absolutely perfect for autumn and winter birthdays. The red patterned paper I think actually would work really well for Christmas as well. And if you put played up the reds and greens in it with your card colours, then I think it's perfect for Christmas too, so really versatile. So this is Splendid Autumn. Now I haven't got the whole suite. There are stamps and dies, although I didn't get those. However, I did fall in love with the paper. These designs have been hand drawn by an artist using chalk pastels, and you can actually see in the texture of the autumn foliage here, I think, the kind of the touch of the chalk pastels. It's really beautiful. The colours in this are all your autumn shades, Azure Afternoon and Balmy Blue. Then you've got Cajun Craze and Crushed Curry and Pumpkin Pie. That's your yellows and oranges. Then you've also got Cherry Cobbler. You've got some purples with Fresh Freesia and Moody Mauve, and then Garden Green, Mossy Meadow and Old Olive, plus Wild Wheat. So really lovely autumnal shades. These are 6 inches square, and I'm just checking I gave you the right numbers. You get 48 in a pack. You get 4 sheets of each of the 12 designs. So I'm just going to page through those now. So they all have an autumn theme on one side, and then they've got these really useful patterns on the other. And this really looks just like somebody has run the chalk pastel up and down some textured paper, perhaps smudged it a little bit. So you've got an old olive backing there. This one is a pumpkin field. And then you've got Cajun craze on the back. This one is kind of late summer, early autumn flowers. Looks a bit like a hedgerow there. Looks a little bit like toad flax or something there. And maybe some cow parsley. And then we've got garden green and mossy meadow on the back. This one is walking down an avenue of trees in autumn foliage. And then we've got, I think it's cherry cobbler on the back. We've got a sunset with the sky all streaked with clouds like you get in autumn. That's really lovely too. And then you've got Cajun craze and pumpkin pie on the back. Here we've got what looks to me like Michaelmas daisies. So you've got a more purple one there and purple on the back again. Autumn trees again with a green back. Field of buttercups, I like to think, here with again flowers here. So slightly impressionistic illustrations. They're just lovely. Beautiful azure afternoon blue there. Then we've got more daisies. We've got some leopard's bane in our garden that doesn't look unlike that. And wild wheat on the back. This one is really beautiful, two gorgeous trees dressed in their autumn finery. And then a slightly more windswept. The New Forest where I live looks like this on a chilly autumn morning. And then you've got grasses or a wheat field with possibly even a little touch of frost on them there, and some blue. So I think those papers are absolutely stunning. So to go along with them, we've got some lovely ribbon here. This is, yeah, I think it's rustic striped ribbon. And the stripes through it have got a kind of a texture to them, if you can see that. With, I think it's white, but certainly if you were wanting to use vanilla, you would get away with that, no problem at all, because the white next to the wild wheat edging definitely gives it a kind of a creamy look. Ties like a dream. So that is beautiful ribbon. There are some faux glass dots, so they're not really made of glass, but they definitely look like frosted glass dots. They're really lovely. Again in 4 autumnal colours. These are lovely. They've got a matte finish to them, so they're not too girly, but they just add some subtle colour and texture to whatever you're making. And then these, which are called Woven Golden Leaves. These are gorgeous. The pack says there are 75 in a pack, which is quite a lot of leaves for anybody. Let's get a couple out. So these are in, it feels like a metallic mesh. They're quite firm. They are definitely see-through. If I put one on there, you can see the writing through it. They measure 2¼ inches long by about 1¼ inch wide. So they add beautiful texture on their own, but if you scrumple them up and open them out again, then they do really sit like an autumn leaf. So these are beautiful. You can colour them using your stamping blends, the alcohol ink markers, to make them different colours. So that is something else you could do with them. So splendid autumn suite then. As I say, I don't have it all, but what I've got I really like. Alright, so coming next then, this is the Nests of Winter suite. Now I've had this for quite a while, and you may have seen that I've already posted some projects using these. I did a Stampin' Up event where we could order this really early and use it, and it's beautiful. So I did get the whole suite because I really like it. I think this is perfect for autumn and winter, but it's also going to work really nicely for Christmas. So you've got the Winterly Treetops stamp set, where you've got 2 little birds on a branch with berries and 1 little bird, plus a foliage wreath, some pussy willow, and then 3 sentiments. Then the die set is quite a big set. So you can cut out your 4 images on here. Then there is a die, and in fact there's a pair of dies which you can use to cut pussy willow from coloured cards. So you've got the twig, and then you've got the kind of the, are they blossoms or seed heads? I'm not quite sure. So the 2 will overlay like that. You can cut, there are 2 of these which will cut out fir branches. I always like it when you get multiple dies, you can cut several things out in a pass. And then this big frame here, and I've actually got one of those die cut here just to show you. There we are. So that cuts a beautiful frame. It's lovely to add your birds to. And then the bit that comes out of the middle, you can see probably that I've been using this one already. You can actually use as a mask. You may have seen one of the cards I posted where I'd done this as a background. Hold it in place, ink over that with your ink blending brush. It's really nice actually if you then turn that round and ink again, because then you get some areas which have got a double layer of ink and some which have got a single layer and some which have got none at all, and that gives you a beautifully inked frame. So rather than having a die cut frame, you have an inked frame. So I really like this. Now some of these dies cut out some of the patterned paper as well, which I always think is so helpful. I'm not going to get those in quickly. Let's just put them out of the way and let me show you that patterned paper. So the colours in the paper, lots of them: basic black, blueberry bushel, cherry cobbler, coastal cabana, copper clay, crumb cake, daffodil delight, garden green, granny apple green, grey granite, night of navy, pumpkin pie, real red and shaded spruce. So we've got blues, we've got reds, we've got browns, and then we've got little pops of yellow and orange as well. So this is the Nests of Winter paper. This is beautiful. So we've got all kinds of birds on here, and I think they've done a really good job at making these kind of worldwide birds, if you like. Now this is obviously a cardinal. We don't have cardinals in the UK, but this looks very much like a blue tit to me. We've got a robin. This I think could be a chickadee, but equally it could also be a coal tit or a marsh tit. So lots of birds on there that we recognise. Just knocked something on the floor, don't know what it was. On the back there we've got a pretty kind of soft snow scene. Oh, it's a reel of ribbon, that's all right. I've retrieved that. Then we've got smaller versions of the birds, and of course you can snip these out yourself, or you could die cut or punch a circle shape around them and just capture one little bird cut out. Then we've got garden green stripes on the back. This paper will cut out with the dies, so you can cut out all these birds, including the berries they're holding, using the dies. And then on the back of that, we've got a pattern, very generic pattern that can be used for anything. This one I absolutely love. This is birch trees, or they could be aspens if you're in the United States, with all kinds of little birds fluttering about in them. Really pretty. And on the back we've got a kind of a cow parsley design with lots of little birds sitting amongst the plants. So again, really pretty. These are going to work ever so well, I think, for men's cards, but they're perfect for anybody. Then this is one of those designs where if you want, you can cut it down the centre and then just cut off sections for card panels or sections along the bottom of a book or a scrapbook page. So again, we've got that pussy willow, but with lots of different birds fluttering around in it. And the back of that one This is actually, I don't know if you'll be able to pick it up on the camera. It's little bird footprints. Very cute. And then finally we've got an all over Pussy Willow. Of course we've got stamps and dies with this motif on as well. And then on the back is birch bark. So I think the paper is absolutely gorgeous. So to go with that, there is an embossing folder. This really, one of these new big size ones. That's my hand. You can see how big that folder is. And I'm hoping this one that I've embossed will show up. So it's a kind of a birch bark effect. It's really, really deep embossing. You will need your specialty plate. Or if you've been shopping with Stampin' Up! A long time, the 3D embossing plate that we used to hold, but the specialty plate does the same job. And then embellishment wise, these are called Earth Tones Shimmer Gems. Again, I think these are really nice for masculine projects where you want a little something to ornament it with, but you don't want to go girly. So again, I'm not sure if you can see, but it's like somebody's dropped a little tiny pinch of shimmer powder on the top of these. They're faceted as well, so they do sparkle a little bit, but they've also got a little bit of shimmer on the top of them. So again, they're called earth tones, which they really are. So we've got browns and we've got beige and green and cream. So really useful, and of course they work with the paper beautifully. And then finally there are some coloured linen threads. So these are the finer linen threads. We have had sort of jute twine in the past, which is much coarser. But these linen threads are really lovely. They're much finer. So we've got those in Cajun Craze, Night of Navy and Garden Green. So that is the Nests of Winter suite, which I absolutely love. Time is ticking on, isn't it? What with false starts and then lots of things to show you. I hope you made a cup of tea before we started. And actually I'm just going to drink some water. Okay, right, so now I'm going to move towards Christmas. So these are the book treat boxes. So they come in a pack of, I think it's 10, yeah, 10 in a pack. They're a 2-piece box. Now you can stamp on these, you can ink on these, you can cover them with patterned paper. They are food safe. And what you're going to do is, all the glue you will need is on these already, which is brilliant. You're going to fold up the sides. The long sides have got a kind of a double panel on them, and the short sides have got a double panel which is already stuck down, so they've done some of the work for you. So you're just going to tuck in the small tabs, and then on each side fold over the long side, take the backing off your double-sided tape which is already on there for you, and fold that down and do the same on the other side, and that will give you your actual little box. And these measure, when they're made up, 3.5 inches by 2 3/4 of an inch. So you can fit a gift card in there, you could fit a couple of nail varnishes in there, you could fit in depending on what you chose, 1 or 2 spirit miniatures. You can obviously fit chocolate in there of all kinds. So there are lots and lots of things that you could put in there. And then once you've got your box, this is your wrap. So again, we've got tape in 2 places where we're going to need it. So your completed box will attach here on top of that double-sided tape. Then this will wrap over the top, and then you've got tape on here as well, which you will use to seal it with. And you have then got a really beautiful little box that looks like a book. And only you will know what you put inside. So I think those are really, really attractive, lovely, and so easy to put together with the tape on them already. Then a few bits here which I've just kind of picked and chosen. So this ribbon is lovely. I'm a sucker for ribbon. Did I say that earlier? I probably did. This is shaded spruce, and it is satin and sheer ribbon. So it's got a satin strip down the middle surrounded by a sheer strip. It's such a pretty green. It's going to be beautiful around your gift boxes or on your cards. And the ribbon is on the firm side, but not as firm as many, which means that it's very easy to tie in a bow, but it does hold its shape nicely. So beautiful ribbon. White loose snowflakes. Now these are going to be gorgeous for shaker cards, if I can get them open to show you, but they are actually thick enough that you could pick them up individually. You probably would want some tweezers, but you could pick them up and stick them down on a little dot of glue. So let me just pop some of them there for you to see. And I don't know if you can tell how thick they are. They are, ooh, probably close to 2 millimeters thick, whatever that is in sixteenths. Nearly a 1/16 of an inch thick, not quite. The bigger ones are about almost a 1/4 of an inch across. And the little tiddly ones are about 1/8 of an inch across. So they're small, but because they're quite thick, they are much more substantial than you might think seeing them in the catalogue. So as I say, they will be perfect for shaker cards, but you can definitely pick them out individually and glue them down as a feature on a card. Now these are called Druzy Gems, and I thought, what on earth is that? Is that some kind of a misprint? But no, I learnt something. I googled Druzy, and Druzy is a naturally occurring crystal formation where a coating of fine crystals goes on top of a rock, a mineral of some sort. So these are meant to mimic that, and they do look like they've had little crystals sprinkled on them. So those are gold and silver in 2 sizes, self-adhesive. They're really lovely, and they are so sparkly because, you know, you can't have too much sparkle at Christmas. So those are beautiful. So don't be put off by the name. Drusy, D-R-U-S-Y. Okay, this is Take a Bow ribbon. Now you will find when you get your catalogue that there are a set of dies where you can cut strips of paper to make those gift bows. You know, the ones you buy that are all looped all the way around. There are some dies that are going to make that so easy, and this paper has been designed to make gift bows. Now I haven't got the dies, or at least I haven't got the dies yet, but the paper is brilliant. It's your standard green and red. We've got garden green, granny apple green and real red. So it screams Christmas. But it's plain enough, or I don't know. Yeah, plain I suppose is the right word. Simple designs, simple enough that you can use it as layers for all sorts of things. You can make little boxes out of it, little envelopes, little gift card envelopes. So 4 double-sided designs, 12 sheets of each. So if you're wanting to mass produce things, then this would be a great pack of paper because you've got lots and lots in each design. So that's the Take a Bow paper. It could be Take a Bow, but as it's designed to go with the bow dies, I'm assuming it's Take a Bow. Now these are not in the mini catalogue. These are actually an online exclusive, but if you haven't yet looked in the online exclusives, I just wanted to show you these because these are begging to be bought for Christmas. These are called Cherry Cobbler and Pearl Adhesive Backed Berries. So some are pearl colour, some are cherry cobbler colour, as you would expect, but they are perfect for going on foliage wreaths, bundles of greenery, adding to designs where you've got berries that you might have stamped. These will give a 3D element to them. And you've got single berries and you've got little clusters of 3. So these are fantastic. And just because they're shown in the online exclusives does not mean that I can't order them for you, because I can. You just need to tell me that you would like them. So go to my website, sallybowman.stampinup.net, go to the online exclusive section, and you will see these there along with many, many other lovely things, and I can absolutely order those for you. All right, 2 more Christmas things to show you. So the first is from the mix and match section. So these are gold dipped cards and envelopes. They're beautiful. And they're very tightly packed. Let's see if I can get them out. So you've got 3 colours here. You've got Night of Navy, Garden Green, and I think that's Cherry Cobbler. Yes, Cherry Cobbler. And then you have, those are the envelopes, then you've got cards to go with them. So the envelopes have got coloured flaps, colour and gold on the front, they're white on the back. And then your navy cards look like this. Now they're printed front and back, so you can have them with the gold at the top, you can have them with the gold at the bottom, or you can have them landscape with the gold on the right or the left. So they're super versatile. Putting that printing in on both places means that you can have them in all those different orientations. Then this one is printed the other way around, so instead of being along the bottom, you've got it on the sides, but in just the same way. You can have it on the right like that, or you can have it on the bottom. So 2 versions of that. And then this is printed like the navy one, so you've got 4 versions. It's printed front and back, so you can have it on the bottom, on the top, on the right, or on the left. So beautiful printed cards. So that's a pack of 9 cards and matching envelopes, and they are designed to coordinate perfectly with the Christmassy ephemera packs. So if you haven't come across these already, they are printed and die cut sheets designed to make your card making really quick and easy. You can also use the elements in scrapbooking, in your handmade books, on gift boxes. And there are so many pieces in each pack. So you have 2 sheets like this. Let's just move those out of the way. So we've got labels or banners, we've got deer, we've got decorations and ribbons. I like that these are quite traditional images. So you've got 8 sheets all together in this pack. And completely die cut, so all you have to do is just pop them out, and there are touches of gold foiling on there as well. I'm hoping you can see that. So really lovely. And what I think is nice to do with these is to pull out 2, 3, 4 image elements and then add them to a label and a sentiment, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Glue them all to each other to make a little kind of cluster, and then glue that down to your card, and you can sit and make a batch of cards really quickly. You haven't got to get inky if you're wanting to travel to do some Christmas crafting while you're away. It's very easy and clean to do. So these are called Joyful Sayings. Again, the colours all coordinate. So we've got on here, we've got Thinking of You, Christmas Memories, Holiday Wishes, Love, Peace, Joy, Hope, Joy, Happy Christmas, Dear Santa, Ho Ho Ho, Peace on Earth. I mean, I'm not going to read them all, but there are lots. 2 sheets like that. Then this one, Again, these have got gold foiling on them. May all your days be merry and bright. 'Tis the season just for you. Happy Christmas. Christmas wishes. Thinking of you this Christmas. These are gold foil, and these are which, let's punch that one out just to show you. So these are actual words with the letters all kind of cut out, if that makes sense. So that one is joy, for instance. We've got season's greetings. We've got merry and happy plus Christmas. So you can have happy Christmas or merry Christmas. I know sometimes people have very strong feelings about which of those they like best. And then the final sheet, Noel, 'tis the season, peace on earth, wishing you a wonderful Christmas season, and so on. So yeah, 8 sheets again in that. So that's your Christmas sentiments. And then finally we've got tags and labels. Now of course you can also make gift tags with these, and you can also use these tag layers and elements and banners on your cards. So these are all quite small, these are much bigger. Again, they've all got foil on them. I've got several sheets there. That's those two. Then these again are big tags. Don't know how well that's showing up because they're white. But you can stamp on those, or you can just add little clusters of the words and the images that I've just been showing you, and lots on here as well. Again, all with gold foiling. So really, with a pack of the Christmas cards and a pack of each of the ephemera, you are set up for making lots of cards. And these are so beautiful. You could even cut them down the middle and make 2 cards. Use these as a layer instead of your card base, and that way you get 18 cards out of that pack. Right, we're on the last section. Let me just make some space. I haven't done any crafting yet, have I? But I get so much feedback from people saying that they love to see the actual products. Looking at them in a catalogue is one thing, but seeing them is something else. So this is the last one I'm going to show you, and then I really will get started on some crafting. So this is the Season of Elegance suite. This is a really, really big suite. I liked everything about it, so yes, I got it all. Peaceful evergreens. I am a sucker for tree stamps. I love flower stamps, as I said earlier. I also love tree stamps. So we've got 3 individual evergreen trees. We've got a little group. We've got some snowdrifts. That could be snow in the sky or texture on the ground, or even snow on your trees. And we've got a little star. So that's the Peaceful Evergreens stamp set. And there is a coordinating die set, which cuts out the trees and the little group of trees. Then you've also got a detail here, so you could add this in, say, some glitter paper on top of your stamped trees, or you could cut your outline trees out of one colour and then add your detail from another colour. You can also cut out your star. There's this one which will give you little holes in a layer, so it doesn't cut out a rectangle, it just cuts out these little holes. And you could then layer that, you could cut that across your whole layer of card, lay that on top of something else for another colour to show through. And I'm sure there's lots of other things you can do with it yet that I haven't even thought of. And then finally we have pieces here to actually make a 3D bow. So this one you would cut out, fold it over and pop a glue dot here to join these 2 ends together. Do the same there, that gives you 2 loops. That's your bow tails, and that's your piece to go over to form the knot in the middle. So great dies those. would also work. You could punch holes in, I've made those, what are they called, lumières, those little lanterns that you can pop an electric battery operated tea light in, make a box out of vellum, punch the holes in the side, light up your tea light inside, and you've got a really pretty table decoration, or even, if the weather's being kind, outside to line a path with the light coming through the holes. So that's your first bun. Now this is available as a bundle, Peaceful Evergreens, or as individual things, or of course you can get the whole suite. This is Peaceful Season. So this is a great stamp set. It's got all your Christmas words in it, for the fronts of cards, for inside cards, for gift tags. And the die set that coordinates with that is mostly banners and layers. These squares here have got slits in them on the corners, so you can suspend them on a thread, wrap some ribbon through, wrap some ribbon round them, and have them almost like a buckle on a box or a card. Your words, of course, lots of the words will fit within the banners, but these will also layer up like that. And then we've got dies to cut out the word Christmas and then cut out a background layer for it. And I imagine, yeah, this isn't shown at full size. I haven't tried it, but I assume that that die will also cut out your stamped word. So, Peaceful Season. That's going to get a lot of use, I think. There are beautiful, beautiful papers to go with this. So these are called Season of Elegance papers. They are 12 by 12 and they have all got gold foiling on them. The colours in the pack are Basic Beige, Cherry Cobbler, Crumb Cake, Grey Granite, Lost Lagoon, Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, Pretty Peacock, Real Red and Gold. So we've got kind of neutrals, we've got reds, we've got blues and we've got greens, and then of course the gold on them. So one side is gold and one side is paint. It looks like oil paint, could be acrylic, but anyway, it's got real texture. I don't know if that's showing up, I hope it is. So you've got two sheets which are green, but they are not the same as each other. So if I put them side by side, you can see that they are not the same as each other, and actually the backs are not the same either. One is more stripy and one is more kind of textured. So that's the green and gold. Then we've got the kind of the beiges or the neutrals with gold, and again two of these, but they're not the same as each other. That one reminds me a little bit of birch bark. And then if I turn them over again, you've got the kind of the striped effect and the more blotchy textured effect. Then we've got one red, and one blue. So beautiful, beautiful, rich paper. And accessories to go with that. Gorgeous ribbon. This is Cherry Cobbler and gold satin ribbon. So this is narrower, it's got a gold edging. It's quarter of an inch wide. Again, ties beautifully, very easy to tie. A large embossing folder. This is called Painted Trees embossing folder. This is a square one, so it's a 6-inch square more or less, and I've embossed a piece to show you. It's got the 3 trees in it. I think this will be stunning for a white on white card, or white with some touches of silver, but white doesn't show up brilliantly on the camera, so I've done it in shaded spruce for you. And then finally, these are called gold textured adhesive backed dots. Now these are quite yellow. And when you see them close up, they have got a little bit of texture to them. They've got a little pinch of kind of gold sprinkle on them as well. So those are the gems from that suite. So there we are, lots and lots and lots of new things there for you to consider. Watch out for your catalogue in the post. And again, you can order from the 4th of September, ordering online. My first order from this catalogue will go in on the 13th of September. I'm just going to put these on the other table. Okay. Right, that's going to take me a little while to, to put away when I've said goodbye to you. All right, so let's do a little bit of crafting, shall we? Now, card sketches. There are sketches in here, but I can't show you the inside of the catalogue until it launches. But I can show you the inside of the annual catalogue. And on page 22, there are all these card sketches. Now, I've actually enlarged them on my printer as much as I could because they are very small in the catalogue. And I've picked 3 of these to make cards with this afternoon. This one, and this one. Now, why would you want to start with a card sketch? Well, first of all, if you're lacking in inspiration, that can just give you a starting point. And you can copy them exactly, or you can use them as a guide. You are allowed to change them. The Stampin' Up police are not going to be after you. So you can add extra layers to them. You can rearrange the elements. You can remove some of the elements. You can change the sizes, the proportions of the elements. You can change the shapes. These cards are all portrait. You can have them landscape, or you can have them portrait that way up, or landscape that way up. So that's 4 ways without even changing the contents, just by turning it round. So there are no measurements on there, which I know can upset some people. So what you can do is what I've done here. So for each of the 3 sketches for today, I've just drawn out on a piece of paper. I'm hoping you can see that. Yeah, I think you can. And decided for myself, looking at the proportions of the sketches here. So this sketch is this one. So I was looking at the distances between this square and the top of the card, and the bottom and the right and the left and so on. Just worked out what I think those proportions would be on what is a standard card for me. So my standard card base is 4 inches wide. That's obviously folded by 5 3/4 inches high. So that would actually have started off as 8 inches by 5 3/4, and I've then scored it. And what you can do is you can actually then cut those out of scrap bits of card and make yourself some little pieces like I've done here. I'm just trying to find the banner. There it is. So I've written the measurements on the pieces as well, and then I can start to play around. So I can put that higher, I can put it in the middle, I could put it at the bottom. I could have my card this way and have it in one corner or in the middle, and so on. And then here's my banner piece. So there we are. So that's approximately what I think is in the catalogue. But it can also be fun to change the sizes of things. So all I've done here is just change sizes. I haven't changed shapes, but this square could become a circle. This could become more of a label shape with round corners, and so on and so forth. But let's just say I leave that as it is and I change the banner. So I can make the banner a bit longer, or I can make it a bit wider as well as longer, or I can make it much longer and much wider. And by having these pieces cut out, it really helps me play around with layouts before I've started to cut into my good card and paper. If we remove this layer, we can replace it with one that's actually more of a rectangle. So again, I can then play with that with different banners, and so on. And then I can keep all these pieces for this particular sketch in a cello bag, and I've done that once, but then I can keep that forever and just pull it out whenever I feel like making something, and I can play around with those pieces, and then I know exactly what size to cut all the individual elements to make a card using that sketch. And I'll show you as we get to them the pieces for the other ones as we go. So let's quickly, actually let me keep that sketch out. Let's make a card using the sketch. So I've just gone with those measurements there, but I have used some of the new stuff. So I've used this beautiful autumnal paper. So that's my piece 3.5 by 3.5 inches. I've got my basic card base, which was 8 inches, scored at 4 inches by 5 3/4 of an inch. My insert is just 1/4 of an inch smaller all round, so my insert is 3 3/4 by 5.5. And then instead of card, I've got a piece of ribbon here. So this is the new wild wheat ribbon. I've actually cut this a little bit longer because I'm going to fold the top over to stop it fraying, and I've put some double-sided tape on the back, some tear and tape. So I decided I would bring in a little bit of stamping because there's quite a lot of just kind of bare card on here. So this image is from Thoughtful Wishes. This is in the annual catalogue, and I've got my wild wheat ink, and I'm just going to add some stamping over the kind of the bottom and the right hand edge of this card. And I'm going to get the stamping kind of getting slightly taller as I go towards the right. This outline stamp overlaps really nicely on itself, so if I've got some of the leaves overlapping, that's fine. And then I want it to come up here. It's not really tall enough to do that, so instead I'm going to use the tips, and I'm just going to bring those in at an angle, and that gives me the same effect. There we are. So that's given me some background stamping and made that card a little bit more interesting. And I'm just going to glue my paper on top. And see, that card sketch made the whole design of this really quick, because when I look at that sketch, it's very obvious that that square is my focal point, so I just had to choose what to do. I could have chosen to stamp something on here, but I did want to use this new paper because it's so lovely. But so it was easy peasy. Now that could have been a circle, it could have been an oval, it could have been a label shape. And as I say, I could have stamped it, I could have heat embossed it, I could have embossed it in my die cutting machine. There's so many ways you can vary these, but it's a jumping off point. Right, so I'm just going to take, actually before I do that, I'm going to snip the bottom into a flag end, and then I'm going to take the backing paper off. It'll just make it very slightly less sticky. There we are. So I'm going to take the backing off the double-sided tape. Now I'm not actually going to measure this. I'm just going to kind of look at it by eye. That looks about right. And then I'm just going to, I think I can trim a little bit of this off. It's a bit longer than I need. But I do want to leave enough so that I can fold the top over, just so that's not going to fray. There we are. And I will need a tiny little bit of tape on there because obviously I've folded that edge over, which means that I've got no tape on there. There we are. So instead of a piece of card for a banner, I'm using a piece of ribbon. So this may not exactly measure 2 inches down, but if it doesn't, I can live with that. Just get that straight as I can. There we are. So that's my card. That was really quick. I will put an insert in it. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm aware of time ticking on, so I will do that afterwards. Let me just tuck that back in there, and I'll show you one I did which is similar but has more on it, just to show you that you can step these up very easily. So here's a second one. Card base is the same, paper's the same, but I've added a layer of contrast card around this. I've still got my ribbon banner on there, but I've also added some of these gorgeous leaves that I was showing you earlier. I've crumpled them, I've tucked 2 underneath the paper layer and I've put 1 on top. And then I've added some of these faux glass gems. I do really like this one. And just stamped inside as well. So 2 versions then of that card with a sketch. Really quick and easy because I didn't have to spend half an hour on the design. And some days I'm just, I don't know, I want to make something but I don't know what I want to make and I don't know how to make it. And it's just nice to have some of the design done for you. So this is my next sketch. If you're looking at your catalogue, it is this one here. So again, I worked out what I thought the measurements on the standard one were. Then I cut the elements out of scrap card. And then I can play with them. Well, on this one, they've aligned that front panel with the right hand edge of the card, which is quite interesting. That's not something I often do. And then these, they've got kind of offset from each other, a bit like that, and then down like that. But again, you can play with the width of the banners. You can play with the size of the card piece. Maybe you can go smaller. This could be a circle which you glue to the edge and then trim off the excess. So you've got a straight side and a circle. It could be a label. You know, you get the get the idea. You can make layer upon layer and pop it down. You can do so much. It doesn't have to be exactly as it shows on the sketch, but it is a jumping off point. So for this one, what time is it? 3:15. I'm not going to make this one up. I'm just going to show you the elements, and then I will show you one that is completed with some additions. So this is my piece, 3.5 inches by 5 inches. It's going to be this panel here, and that's my focal point panel. And I decided that I wanted to use the Frosted Forest masks for this. Now these are part of the online exclusives. Again, you can see them on my online shop, or if you scan the code, if you've got one of my annual catalogues, I gave you a QR code which you can also scan. That's on, I think it's on the back of the catalogue. I can't see it from here. There are 2 kinds of tree in here. There are pine trees and there is a deciduous tree, which actually could be a Scots pine tree as well, but I'm taking it to be a deciduous tree. So if I can find something that is not pale, there we go. So there's a large tree and a small tree, and we've got 1, 2, 3 different stencils for that. Stampin' Up call these masks. I call them stencils. But what's in a name? What's in a name? Now, you may have seen me demonstrate the layers of beauty masks in the past. I love these masks. I think they are incredibly versatile, and you really can do so much with them. These masks work in exactly the same way as those, so if you've got those masks then you know how to do these, but I will just show you how to create the panel I did. So the first thing I'm going to do is just, I haven't got a pencil handy, just going to mark the corners on my grid paper where I'm going to sit my card, just to help me line up the masks. And the way these work is that they are numbered. So I'm going to start with number 1. They're numbered here in the corner. They've got a notch on them. And the number is just underneath. So this is number 1. This is the tree trunk. So I'm going to lay this down where I want it on here, down towards the bottom, and I've actually got it over to one side because we've got a kind of an asymmetrical design here. It's pushed to the right of the card. So I'm doing my tree towards the right, and I'm just going to trace out on my grid paper where this notch is, just to help me line up the subsequent layers. Now if you're nervous, you can hold this down with some tape. Washi tape would do a good job. I'm just going to hold it in place, and I could stamp an outline first. There is a set of stamps, so I could stamp this tree outline, and then would use these stencils to actually colour it in, and that gives you detail on the trunk and a little bit of extra detailing on the leaves. But for this I'm actually just going to use the stencils. So this is pecan pie ink. I'm just going to make sure I haven't got too much on there, and then I'm just going to work in a circular motion through my stencil, adding extra ink as I need it. So that's my tree trunk done very quickly and easily. So layer number 2 is the first layer of leaves, and I'm going to pick a lighter ink for this. I've got Old Olive. And I'm going to make sure my card is where I marked, and I'm going to put the stencil where I marked. And sometimes this needs a slight tweak. Sometimes things move just a little bit, but essentially that is right. So this stencil is covering over the branches I've already done, and then it's just giving me spaces in which to put green ink for the branches. I'm just going to blend this green on a block because I've got a larger area to cover, and it just saves me wasting a lot of ink on there. I've also put my arm in my brown ink pad. So Old Olive ink, working in a circle just through those holes. All I've got to do is not move the stencil. If I go straight from the ink pad onto the card, I very often find that I get a sort of circular shape of ink where the curved part of my blending brush hit the ink pad slightly more firmly. And I don't want circular blobs of ink, so by blending it on my block, that helps to blend the ink and the bristles. And by starting moving before I touch the card, that also helps me avoid blobs. So that's given me a good base colour for the leaves. And then I'm going to come in with my third stencil and a darker green. This one is Mossy Meadow. So I've picked 2 green inks which have got slightly yellow tones in them, and I'll match up that stencil there, and then I think I've moved something probably, but that there we go. Match that up with the previous leaves. Again, I've turned my block over, so I'm blending on a clean area of the block. Now I don't want too much of this dark to start with. I can always go back and add some more if it's not dark enough. So I want some contrast, but not too much. So I'm being quite careful with how much Mossy Meadow ink I use. Let me just lift this up. There we go. So that I do like. I think that's enough dark. And I think I'm just going to come back on top of that with a little bit more old olive, so I can straight away see where this stencil needs to be, because I've got the outline of where I used it before. Turn that back to the old olive side. So this will darken up the old olive ink a little bit and just make less of a contrast between the two green colours. There we are, that's probably enough. So I've stenciled my tree on there. So that's how I started off preparing the focal point panel for this card. Let me show you a completed version, which actually is also a stepped up version. So I'll pull in my other pieces here. So for the one which is true to the card sketch, which I've lost, there's the card sketch. I've got a base card here. Let's move those pieces out of the way. I've just tipped those out of the envelope because I'm hurrying. Here's my focal point, which would be mounted over to the right. Now, focal point isn't finished, bear that in mind. I would add some more detailing to that. I would stamp a sentiment on that strip, layer it onto that one, and glue those on like that. So that is my piece, which is very true to the sketch. But I thought I would do a little bit more. So here is one that I've completed. So you can see that it's true to the sketch. I have added an extra layer of dark green behind my panel here. So my inked panel, I inked the white card before I stenciled the tree. So I've got some soft seafoam ink here. I've got boho blue here very faintly. I've also stamped some grass and flowers here using Grassy Grove stamp set, and I've added a bird which is in the Frosted Forest set. Let me show you that image. You can actually get away with stamping that bird both ways up. It's not a very distinct bird shape, so you can have a bird flying the other way without having to worry about reflection techniques if you want. And then I cut the banners slightly shorter just to fit that sentiment, and this one in the back I have embossed with a wood grain embossing folder, and then I've added some of the dots on there. I can't remember what those are called, but they are matte dots. They're from the annual catalogue. So that is my version of this sketch. And then finally, the sketch here. Let's just move those masks out of the way. So this one's got a circle and a banner and a bow. So once again, I worked out roughly what size I thought the shapes were going to be. I've cut them from card because I can keep this as a reference. I even popped a little baker's twine bow in there. And then I cut out some alternatives. So I've got a smaller circle. I've got a bigger circle, so I can play around with those. I can actually even look at layering them up and see how that would look. I've got banners of different sizes, different lengths, and so on and so forth. And again, I've made those now. I can keep those and use those forever. So I thought for this it would be fun to use the, what's it called, Regal Flora stamp set, which I showed you earlier. So I'm going to stamp my card base. This is Blackberry Bliss card base. I've got Blackberry Bliss ink and I've got this lovely triple flower. And once again, for this sketch, there is quite a lot of bare card. So it's quite nice to stamp the card base to give it a little bit of interest. So I'm turning the stamp, I'm also turning the card base as I work, just so that I don't end up with a whole line of things all the same. And I'm also stamping off the edges because that gives me a result I'm much happier with, rather than just keeping everything within the boundaries of the card. It looks much more natural and organic if it escapes over the edge. Then I've got my circle here, which is about 2 7/8 across. I use the Deckled Circles dies for this. Many circles in there. So I'm going to stamp some flowers on this. Kind of opposite, I was going to say corners, circles don't have corners of course, but opposite sides if you like of the circle. And then I'm going to bring in my Berry Burst ink and stamp a bigger flower in here to kind of fill in some of the gaps. There we are. And I can actually turn that and see which way round I like it the most. So I'm going to have, oops, an image on there. Sorry, not an image, what am I talking about? A sentiment. Sentiment on there. So I've got the thanks stamp from the same stamp set. There's so much ink on my grid paper you probably can't actually see what I'm doing here. I am going to cut this down because it's a really small word, and this is going to sit across that white circle, and just to give it a little bit of definition I'm going to just gently dip the edges of the sentiment in my ink pad just to give it a narrow ink edging. Now I'm not sawing it across because this card will cut into my ink pad if I do that. I'm just literally dipping it in there. And now I'm ready to glue everything together. I'm hopefully not going to get everything covered in ink where I don't want it, because I am now very inky. And again, a very quick card because the designing part really has been done for me by the sketch. I think I'm going to pop that sentiment up on some mini dimensionals. I'm aware that we have overrun, although we had several false starts, didn't we? So if you're still with me, I congratulate you. There we are. Let's pop that there. And actually, I'm not going to put a ribbon on there, but I am going to pop some rhinestones on there. I can pull out my rhinestones because I just feel that rhinestones are going to work better than a ribbon bow. Oh, actually, I say rhinestones. I think I'm going to use these actually. These are the iridescent pearls, and they've got a slight pinky tone to them, which I think might be quite nice here. Find something to pick them up with. That one moved. I wasn't going to put it there, but I think that's okay. A couple up there as well. And again, I will put an insert in there, but I will do that later because it's probably not something you desperately need to see me do. And time is marching on. So that's a simple card, very true to the sketch. The only thing that I changed was instead of a bow, I've added some pearls. But then I thought, okay, what else can I do with this sketch? So I did go a bit wild. So this at first sight might not look like it has anything to do with the sketch, but it does. If I put it this way, instead of a circle, we've got this label shape from the Regal Flora dies. And then I just turned it landscape. So I've put it slightly up in the top left corner instead of sort of the centre top. I cut lots of flowers and foliage using the stamps and then the dies. I've used the same thank you here. And this time I've put it on top of a piece of ribbon, and I've used some of the beautiful golden dots that come in the suite, and of course a layer of that patterned paper plus a contrast layer of card. So although it doesn't really look much like that first sketch, that was the jumping off point for this. So when I say that, sorry, I'm moving, which way have I got to move this way? I've got to do everything back to front, and every time it gets me and I do it the wrong way. When I say you can use the sketches as a starting point, you really can, because you wouldn't think these two cards had come from the same idea, but they did. So let me move those inky stamps out of the way. And I'm just going to turn my grid paper over so it's not quite so inky and show you the cards from this afternoon. So this is the one we've just made. Then this was the first one. And let me reach the second one, which I didn't really finish because I just wanted to show you the stenciling on that. So 1, 2, 3 different sketches and different ways to use them as a jumping off point for your cards. I hope it's been helpful and interesting for you to get some ideas as to how to use those on days when maybe inspiration isn't what it might be. I'm going to very quickly turn the camera back up. Let me just cover you over and then I can say my goodbyes. Okay, can I see myself? Not quite. There we go. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. I apologise again for all the false starts. Fortunately, my internet seems to sort itself out. And the final section, I think, went fairly smoothly. I hope you've enjoyed the sneak peeks at the new goodies, which are going to be available from the 4th of September, and that you will look forward to placing an order. Although I won't be working for the next couple of weeks, do drop me an email and I will get to it as soon as I can once I'm back at work on the 13th of September. So until then, have a lovely weekend, have a lovely long weekend if you're in the UK, and thank you so much for joining me today. My next Facebook Live, actually I should tell you, is going to be in, I'm just going to take this off and lean sideways, make sure I give you the right information. Yeah, I thought so. I was about to say it and then I thought, oh no, I better check. I'm not doing a Facebook Live in October. I have a lot happening in October. My father-in-law is 90, so we're having a celebration for that. And our daughter is also getting married, which is taking up a chunk of October as well. So what with one thing and another, I simply couldn't fit a Facebook Live in, as well as taking quite a bit of time off work in October. So I will see you in no, hang on. I'm really getting confused now, aren't I? Yeah, I've lost a month. Okay, so let's rewind that. Okay, today is August. I will be with you at the end of September. It's October that I'm missing, but October is not next month. So if I haven't totally confused you, I seem to have managed to confuse myself. I will see you in September, but you know, I'll put an event up on my Facebook page. It'll go in my customer newsletter. So hopefully if I have confused you now, I will be able to unconfuse you before we get to the next one. But I'm looking forward to seeing you then. And thanks so much for joining me today. Bye bye.